and we're gonna only touch on this one time.
Okay.
AI.
Ah,
See, and here because the only
serenity
reason I'm
now. Serenity now.
the biggest reason I'm bringing it up is because that has affected our industries quite a lot. And well, I want to know from you, what do you see happening with this?
Hey everybody, and welcome to 2026. We made it to this year. We have a great new season planned for the show. We have a lot of new things planned for the show this year. I am really excited about, and yeah, I'm going to use my words. I'm super excited about this episode. I mean, I'm always excited about all my episodes, and this one because I get to catch up with a friend of mine, Chris Bonbright with Curiosity Consulting. Now, Chris has been on the show before. His business revolves around market research. And why is that important? Well, come on. There are a lot of things that are changing so rapidly all the time. It helps to have somebody like Chris in your back pocket because he can help find the answers when you're curious about something. And that's the starting point. That's what we get to talk about in this episode. And I love it also because I've come out of 25, and this will be a whole different conversation in a different episode. Come out of 25 with a whole newfound curiosity for myself, meaning I've taken some deep dives into my own patterns and behaviors and thoughts and what I'm doing and what I see the world to be and how I'm behaving in it and what I really want to become and what I am right now and what I have been, all of this stuff, all of these questions. And when we take that same approach to our businesses, we want to pull somebody in like Chris who can help us pull all the information to help us make the best decisions. Chris and I also talk about one of the other questions that I asked him during this episode was, like, help me out. I couldn't formulate the best question, but now that I have a moment, the difference between I'm still formulating my words. I have worked with a lot of business owners that have used their KPIs as their research. And the two things are separate. Research should help formulate your KPIs. It should help support and feed in. It just should inform things, right? Your market research should inform how to set up KPIs, and KPIs is your tracking. So if you've ever mixed those two together, I would encourage you to separate out that there's a lot more that can be done for research than just tracking KPIs. That was one of the big points that I took as far as a best practice, but there's more to come. So with that, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to set this in motion, listen to our episode. Welcome, my friend, back to Small Business Success Talk, Chris Bonbright with Curiosity Consulting.
Welcome back, my friend. Thanks for doing this episode
You're very
with
welcome.
me.
My
All
pleasure.
right. So catch me up. Now, we just mentioned that you haven't been on the show for a few years, and it was back when it was branded something else.
That's right.
So let's do a little regrouping here. What do you do? Let's catch up the audience. And you probably evolved a little bit since, because that episode was pre-shutdown, pre-pandemic.
It was. Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe it was. Yeah.
So let's go with, what's the new Chris Bonbright Curiosity Consulting like
I
nowadays?
have new branding.
Oh, right.
Luckily, I have a daughter who's a graphic design student and redid my branding for me in 24. So trying to get a little bit more up to date and whatnot. So I have
Nice.
brand standards for my company, which is fantastic. I encourage all my clients to have the same. It makes life very easy.
Yes,
Um,
so much, especially for anybody who's helping you do marketing. That's a
yes,
very good idea. Yes.
it's so nice to be able to, when you need something laid out, just to be able to send that and say, here's all the stuff,
Yeah.
follow these guidelines. So,
Yeah.
um, but that's minor part. I think since 2020 was actually during the pandemic was actually one of my best years. And early on, I hated to say that because everybody was struggling with all the shutdowns and all that other stuff going on. But what I found is the resilience of particularly small to medium-sized businesses from a census standpoint. They rebounded pretty quick, and they were very much of the mind, we need to figure out what's going on and how we pivot or whatever you want to call it, so that we can still serve our customers. And that obviously led to a great deal of research, and which I was hugely grateful for at the time, because not everybody had that advantage. But it gave me a lot of optimism for just the resiliency of business in this
Yeah.
country and business owners that, they're not sitting on their laurels. They're not just sucking their thumb and hoping everything will survive. They were doing what was necessary, finding the information so they could make better decisions and get better results. So um, that was encouraging. Since then, it's been up and down. Um, the political turmoil in this country, and various other things have caused, anytime there's turmoil of any sort, the first thing businesses do, they get anxious and they stop spending money or they cut back spending money. And the lowest hanging fruit is always marketing, as you well know.
I very
So,
well know.
and my the research is usually paid for from the marketing budget, 9 times out of
Yeah.
10.
And
So,
you
yeah,
are you're both a foundational item and a specialty item under
yes,
marketing.
that's
Yeah.
right. And sometimes it doesn't always come from marketing. I mean, sometimes it comes from product development, it can come from operations or other sources, but largely it comes from the marketing space.
Yeah.
So it's 24 was the worst election year ever. I always expect them to be up and down, but and I'm not alone in that. Everyone I talked to in the marketing services space had a difficult year in 24 because there was just so much unknown,
Well,
and
yes, I did. It was
uh,
awful.
just everybody was hanging on to money. This year has rebounded, and I have the advantage that at some point I got smart about developing and sustaining relationships with clients, and I luckily have some clients who are in pretty resilient industries. Healthcare is a great example. I have several
Yeah.
clients there, and people still need to go to the doctor and the dentist, and they need pharmaceuticals and various other things. So having clients in this space has been a godsend, particularly this year. They've kept me fed this year.
So, are there industries like you just mentioned that always be resilient? What are those key industries that really never have?
Well, yeah, healthcare is one of them. Obviously, I mentioned healthcare. I don't have any clients in the funeral space or
Oh, death is
but
always a thing.
that
Yeah.
would be one.
Yeah.
Um, I think, interestingly enough, for me, the other thing that I've noticed, I don't do a ton of work in the nonprofit space, but I do a little bit, and it tends to be with larger nonprofits, the ones that aren't very local, that are either regional or national in scope. And when economic times get challenging, the need for their services increases. So they usually have more money and more donations coming in, but they need to figure out how to reach those people who may not have ever used them before, so that they know that they can help them. And over the last 3 years or so, I've done a decent amount of work in that space as well.
That's fascinating to me. I would have never thought that that would be the case.
It's a moving target. So part of the game that I play with myself is to figure out, what is going on in the economy and the general business environment and what industries seem to be thriving and which ones are struggling, because that then becomes a focus of how you market and prospect. Um, and I've found, the healthcare space is definitely one that I'm very fond of because I have several clients in that space and they have been very generous with me. They're still expanding. They're still trying to figure things out. And, that's brought me quite a bit of business over the last couple of years. So it
So,
changes.
yeah. All right. So for all of our viewers and listeners out there, Curiosity Consulting is a market research firm. Like
Correct.
you do research, you do the all of the data and
Mhm.
pretty much any question I would ever have about anything, I can come to you and you'll figure it
You have
out.
questions, I find answers. Yes,
Right. It's as simple as that.
it is.
Do you find that, and I'm trying to figure out how I want to phrase this question because again, you you answer questions. Um,
I ask a
have
lot
you
too.
found or have you noticed if how easy or hard on a scale it is for people to even be curious enough to ask questions about what could be going on for businesses?
Well, that's the battle I fight on a daily basis, to be quite honest. I was having this conversation with somebody earlier today that one of the challenges I think for this country, particularly in the business environment, is a deterioration in critical thinking.
Oh,
So
oh,
there is a lot of people who just want to press the easy button, say, AI can do that, or there's a tool that we can do that ourselves. And that's one part of it. The other part of it is, with the rise of technology and social media and all of those things, there's this wave of people that think if they see it, it's true. And they don't ask the question as to, is that real or is that right? And then they generally don't know how to go about finding the answers. Um, I do a lot of investigate. There's tons of secondary information out there from reliable sources that you can find facts, and I'm a big fan of facts. Right?
I
There's.
mean, kind of
I
goes hand
think
in hand.
I think it's a I think it's a Deming quote that I have in my capabilities presentation. My general philosophy in this company is without data, you're just another person with an opinion. And that's generally the way I approach things and why I ask so many questions, because 90% of the people or the businesses that come to me with some kind of symptom. My job's to figure out, is there an actual problem? And to do that, you got to ask a lot of questions.
Wait,
And
hold up. Hold up. I think that's the first time I've heard you ask that specific question. Is there an actual problem?
Mhm.
Or is this a perceived trauma response?
Well, that's
Like,
it. And to be quite frank, if I could get my clients to do what I suggest, which is gathering just a little bit of information on a continuous basis, kind of staying in contact with your customers in the marketplace, is a whole lot cheaper than waiting till your butt is on fire and then calling me and saying, we need to do this. We've got to make a decision by next week. It's going to cost more money. It's not going to be as efficient. But it's an investment, right? It's just a lot like marketing in general. It's hard to pin an ROI on marketing spend or research spend because it's a longer term game. So asking, sales are down. That's a symptom, right? Our new product isn't selling as well. That's a symptom, right? What's the problem? Is it competitors? Is it the environment? Is it the customer? There's all sorts of things that could be happening. So, um, that's the benefit of that I didn't get when I was in the corporate side of market research is things were dictated to me as to we're doing this research. Now I have the great benefit of asking the questions to figure out, is there a need for it? Because I think a lot of times businesses get trapped in gathering a ton of information, or else they don't realize how much information they actually have, but they don't use it. So when they come to me, part of my questioning is, what information do you gather on your customers? Do you have information on sales? Do you have information on, do you keep an email list of your customers? What else do you know about them? How are you tracking who they are? How did you define your current customers? What do you know about them beyond demographics, right? What are
Hmm.
their attitudes, values, beliefs? How are they affected by
Hobbies.
what's going hobbies, all psychographic stuff, right?
Right.
And it's amazing to me how many companies don't actually know that are quite successful. But they could be much more successful if they really knew more about their customers, or use the
The,
data that they already have.
are you familiar with Harvey McKay?
I don't think so.
So he's an author. He's a part of the National Speaker Association. He is an older gentleman, wrote lots and lots of books. Um, the big on networking, keeping track of your people, owns a paper company,
Hmm.
paper and envelope company. Okay. So think about how dated that feels. And he's gone through a lot over the years. He is real big on tracking literally every piece of information about their clients that you can possibly get. Favorite colors, anniversaries, kids, birthdays,
Smart.
all of like preferred cookies, whatever new piece of information somebody within the company finds out, it gets put into their database so they can personalize all of their reach outs
Yes.
for that specific client.
That's a really interesting segue because I know part of what we might discuss during this conversation is 26. But I sat in a presentation last month sometime. There's a big research company called Mintel, and they do constant streams of research with on different industries and different types of consumers, and they sell that on a syndicated basis. But they gave a trends presentation for 26 last month, and the first trend was the anti-algorithm, which I found extremely interesting and gave me some hope, actually, that
Fascinating.
people are not are moving away from wanting to be grouped with millions of other people so that they can be served the same thing that everybody else is. They're kind of longing for that more personal touch and the human side of relationships. And it's even among the younger consumers who we think, don't do anything but look at their phones. Well, they're burned out on it. They're looking for things that take them away from that. And I find that I'm pretty optimistic about that trend, actually. I think it's a positive thing for humanity in general, but um, it's interesting because you mentioned personalization, right? And
Mhm.
I think that's what people are craving because they're starting to feel like members of the herd, um, and it's not attractive. It's becoming less and less attractive, and
It
that
brings
has big implications for marketing. Big
Yeah, it
implications.
brings to mind 1984
Oh,
Apple.
yes.
Remember that
Yes.
commercial?
Yes. The Orwellian kind of, yeah.
Yes, that one. Um, because you said that and that just immediately popped into my brain. I'll have to include that in this episode somehow.
Yeah, that was a fantastic commercial. And that's back when brands stood for something unique, right?
Yeah.
They came out and it wasn't about the technology. It was about being an individual. And it was a whole different ballgame on how they communicated. Now you look around, you can't look sideways without seeing an iPhone. So it's become mass market, but where they started was this very individual, passionate, I am going to stand out from the crowd kind of thing.
Breaking the mold, being yourself and being creative with it.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
I,
It's
I would
interesting.
love a resurgence of that.
I
That's
would too.
amazing.
I would too.
Let's do it, Chris. We've got this. We'll just do it together.
It's hard to break, and that's back, back when that happened. When was that, in the 80s or 90s?
80s.
Yeah, that was, of course, 1984. The book was, fresh in people's minds, even though it was written, wasn't that the book,
Yeah.
1984?
Yeah.
And there was just there was three national TV channels. There wasn't an internet.
Oh my
It was a
gosh, those
whole
days.
different ball game of communication, and it was easier to stand out when you could make a big buy like that on, three channels. Now it's really hard. It's really hard to break through,
It, you
given all
gotta,
the options.
and you gotta know where your person's actually looking.
Absolutely. And what they're looking for.
You need to know your person. Let's start there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then where are they actually looking and where are they consuming
Hmm.
that kind of information, and how can you get them to stop the scroll long enough to see you and then pay attention? Like there's so many layers to this behavior now. They're like it's
Oh, it's crazy.
not as easy. It's not like back in the day when I first started learning stuff. And the rule of thumb about a billboard was 8 words or less because you have 3 seconds. Right. And
Hmm.
so, and now, like, not that that rule is gone. It's just now we have to apply. You need less than 8 words. It has to be such a visual hook
Yep.
that people will stop for a second and like, how,
How do you do that? Yeah.
and research helps with that information, like informing me on how to be creative for my person. What's going to grab their attention? Like what is already grabbing their attention?
I know. And, I think it was the week before Thanksgiving, I did a couple of focus groups for a client among 18 to 30-year-olds. So Gen Z and later millennials, right? And it was fascinating. I was really surprised at what I heard from them and how it goes along with the trends that I was talking about earlier, because I start off with a warm up and ask them, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do in your free time? And these are all people that have grown up with technology, right? So I'm expecting Xbox and Call of Duty and, all these things.
Did you
I
get like
hear
candle making?
I got thrifting, I got being out in nature,
Mhm.
exercising, playing golf, hiking, and I was like, wait a minute. You guys are supposed to be the ones that grew up with technology, and you're telling all these things, none of these things seem to involve technology. And they're like, it's too much. It's gotten to be too much. And um, they really value that time where they're forcing themselves, not always successfully, to move away when they can, to be in nature or around other people, and not be staring at their phone. They realize it's a time suck. They realize it doesn't really add value to their life. And they're trying to do things that are experiences that are not involved on technology, which I really find encouraging. Um, but the other side of that is when I walked out of the room to see if anybody had questions in the back, whew, all the phones come out. You know? So I came back into the room. I came back into the room and I'm like, so I noticed that none of you were trying to get back to nature when I left here. They're like, well, we couldn't get out of the room, so
That's
like,
part of
okay,
it.
okay,
We're playing a nature video.
right, right. But I think they're trying. So that just points to the fact that you got to understand you can't make assumptions generationally or um, by age groups and things, you really have to get down to why specifically are they trying to do this? What is the driving force behind it? Because there's differences in people among every generation. I mean, you can make some similarities just based on what were the key events of the time or,
Right.
things like that. But I think long gone are the days of trying to segment your target based on demographics or generational cohort. I really think you need to do it on attitudes, values, and beliefs and figure out where they share those things with what your brand or company stands for. And you communicate on those things because that will get the attention these days, not just the regular junk.
So when you say values, attitudes, and beliefs, how do we even define what those things are? I mean, I kind of know the answer because I know what I do, but we're going to have this conversation.
Yeah, no, it's a valid question. You have to ask a lot of questions. And in fact, one thing I'm exploring now, a partner and I are trying to do a different kind of segmentation. If anybody's familiar with segmentation studies, they're usually based on a particular demographic group or a specific industry or product type, and they're very short-lived. They're and very specific.
I just want to take a minute to thank the sponsor of our show, 502 Hemp in Louisville and 812 Hemp in Clarksville, Indiana. If you are looking for quality legal cannabis products, they are definitely your source. If you have questions of what would work best for you, their educated staff can help you choose the best product for your needs, like they did with me. I was having some real issues. One, my hormones were raging and I was raging all the time, just not in a very good place. And when I went to the store and I expressed everything that was going on, they asked additional questions that helped them get me to a solution. And the solution meaning better sleep at night, my inflammation's lower. I have been able to just be a better quality of life with my whole mental attitude because these things work great. My preference is the Maria products. That is a special blend that 502 Hemp owners have created themselves. And I use the Ultra Spectrum CBD gummies, the blood orange. It's 1,000 milligrams. Like this is the potent stuff, like meaning it's the highest milligrams I can get, and I need that for what my system needs. You may not need that much. They also have oils. And so I love the full spectrum here as well, but they have ranges and according to what you're looking for to help in your body, they can help guide you in that way. So check them out at either 502hemp.com or 812hemp.com. Or if you're driving by, stop in one of the stores and they will absolutely be able to help you out. There's no need to wait for a medical dispensary to open. They have safe, reliable products now. And if you stop in a store, tell them Christy sent you, they'll give you 15% off. And not only that, but if you order online, 502hemp.com or 812hemp.com, and you put in that discount code of success, you'll also get 15% off. So check them out today. And I very much appreciate them being a sponsor of Small Business Success Talk.
Must be true. Get your dose of southern gossip served up country style. Where every rumor...
Well, hello again. It's me. Now, I only have a minute, but I wasn't sure you heard what happened to Birdie. I'll start by saying he's okay. They discharged him from the fix and stitch yesterday. And if you haven't signed up to bring a casserole, there's still time. But let me get right to it. My husband Bill's already given me his hurry up face. So, here's what happened. Now, to those of you just visiting, you might not even know Birdie. He's about the sweetest soul that ever walked barefoot to church. It's true, he goes everywhere barefoot. After a while, it stops being weird. His real name's Samuel Bean, but he's been called Birdie his whole life because when he was little, he was fixated with birds. He couldn't get enough of them, still can't. You can bet if he has anywhere to be and a wounded bird gets in his path, he is going to be late or not there at all. Birdie runs errands for people. That's his job. He's got his own business card and everything. His tagline says, when you need something quick, just give Birdie a call. So that's what he was doing when it happened. He was driving his little car. I forget what kind they call it. My husband says it looks like a clown car, to pick up June's dry cleaning for her. Now, usually he walks everywhere if he can, but June says no way is she going to have a repeat of last week when she asked him to bring her dinner from the diner and he saw a bunch of bird feathers trailing off the sidewalk and walked a good mile out of the way only to find out it was just from a pillow that Ned's new puppy tore up. And by the time he got dinner to her house, it was dark and the meal was cold. She told him she can't wait that blasted long to get her purple tweed blazer from the dry cleaners. She says it takes so long walking it'll be out of fashion by the time he gets it to her. My husband says somebody needs to tell her that ship has already sailed. So Bertie picks up the dry cleaning in his car and he's on his way to June's when he sees a lump of gray and white in the drugstore parking lot. And without thinking, he pulls in to take a look. Sure enough, it was another one of his beloved winged creatures who had traveled over the Rainbow Bridge, laying there peacefully. It was too late to save her, but he could make sure she had a proper burial. June would understand. So Bertie takes her and drives her over to the vet so they can bury her in the cemetery out back, reserved for pets and Bertie's finds. And he's got the sweet pigeon wrapped up in a blanket and cradled in his lap. And he's sitting there in his car in the parking lot taking a moment to say his last words, hoping she'd lived a good life and that the end had been brief and painless. And that's when he heard an odd sound, not coming from the car he'd already stopped, but coming from his lap. What kind of sound? The kind of sound a 2-pound pigeon makes when she wakes up from a nap and realizes she has been abducted, just like she saw on the TV in that Criminal Minds episode through the laundromat window. And yes, 2 pounds is big for a pigeon, but you try living next door to Clucky's Fried Chicken and see what happens. She lets out an ear-splitting pigeon scream, spreads out her wings and starts flapping them together at her attacker like she'd learned watching Irma's Me Too self-defense class through the YMCA window. The instructor had told her, make yourself big, loud, and fierce. Now, poor Bertie, he didn't know what to do but scream while that pigeon fought for her life, just like in Sleeping with the Enemy, her favorite movie. She tried to remember the moves that instructor had taught him, the elbow strike. Nope, can't do that. Impossible if you don't have arms. But there was one move she could do. She could go for the groin. And that pigeon dove straight into Bertie's Winky. You could hear him screaming clear down the street. She was just about to try the next move, and her beak was all poised to go for the eyes when the vet finally ran out, threw open the door, and tranquilized the pigeon. Her last thought was, don't put me in the trunk. Please don't put me in the trunk. Bertie got 10 stitches, and his car looked like a crime scene, which according to the pigeon technically was. And the worst was June's purple tweed suit. Well, it was now covered in pigeon poop and feathers. The vet said later that she was classified as a wild pigeon. We all agreed that pigeon sure was wild. But wild or not, we understood how she must have felt thinking she'd been abducted, trying to get away back to her family. I guess that's why they call them homing pigeons. Bertie named her Thelma, but he can't visit her because she got a restraining order. And as my husband Bill summed it up nicely, sometimes a bird in the hand is not worth more than a bird in the bush. Okay, I gotta go. I'll bring you back soon to my small town of Pride's Hollow where the people stay, but the gossip travels. Just remember, you didn't hear it from me.
Behind it, because there's differences in people among every generation. I mean, you can make some similarities just based on what were the key events of the time or,
Right.
things like that. But I think long gone are the days of trying to segment your target based on demographics or generational cohort. I really think you need to do it on attitudes, values, and beliefs and figure out where they share those things with what your brand or company stands for. And you communicate on those things because that will get the attention these days, not just the regular junk.
So when you say values, attitudes, and beliefs, how do we even define what those things are? I mean, I kind of know the answer because I know what I do, but we're going to have this conversation.
Yeah, no, it's a valid question. You have to ask a lot of questions. And in fact, one thing I'm exploring now, a partner and I are trying to do a different kind of segmentation. If anybody's familiar with segmentation studies, they're usually based on a particular demographic group or a specific industry or product type, and they're very short-lived. They're and very specific. I think there's an opportunity to do something that takes the broader look at the human mindset of attitudes, values, and beliefs, and how what's ingrained in us drives how we think and how we purchase things, approach purchase decisions. So that's just a hint at what might be coming next year. But to answer your question, how do you get at those things? Well, you don't have to recreate the wheel. There's personality profiles like Myers-Briggs and what's the other one? The
There's DISC, there's
DISC,
Culture
yeah,
Index,
DISC.
there's Enneagram, there's Strengths
There's
Finders,
there's been
Working
tons of
Genius, you
those.
name it.
There's been tons of those, right? Largely
Mhm.
attitudinal based questions. There's all sorts of segmentation studies and attitude usage and attitude studies that have asked great questions on attitudes and beliefs. So I think you got to take all the best pieces of all of that kind of stuff and put it together in a way that's engaging and interesting for consumers to consume in a survey form. But I don't think you can do that only quantitatively. I think you have to actually talk to people. You have to do one-on-one interviews like this, where you really dive down with a person about why do you buy that thing that you like? Why do you keep buying it? And 9 times out of 10, you'll find if you ask the right questions, you'll get to the point where it's a memory. I remember doing that with my grandma. I remember doing that with my parents. I remember my friends when we were young used to do X, Y, and Z, and X was always involved in those kinds of occasions, and it just brings back good memories and makes me happy. That's that's a different ball game than saying, "Oh, you're an 18-year-old and you're this generation and this race," and
Do you find, well, you've done a lot of focus groups.
Mhm.
How much of that conversation in focus groups has been story driven?
Oh, most of it. That's the key to doing a good focus group. You let people tell stories to a point, right? I mean, you got to keep them on task. Can't let them go on forever. And that's why the I quite honestly like what I'm describing in prep work for this segmentation, for lack of a better word, will be one-on-one interviews because you can go so much deeper in 30 minutes with one person than you can with 8 people in an hour and a half. You can really dive down into specific questions and get them comfortable quicker and talking about things that they might not be comfortable talking about in front of other people. So there's a mix of things that you really need to take a mix of methods to get at the complete picture when you're doing something broad like trying to get at what are common attitudes, values, and beliefs, and how does that affect how people think and purchase. You got to talk to a ton of people. You got to talk to them in person. You got to talk to them via surveys. You got to look at previous research, maybe do some focus groups or even triads where you get 3 friends together and telling stories. Because then you get a really complete picture. And then you pick out the similarities. And then at the same time, you understand what's not being said. and maybe those are other areas to explore. So yeah, I geek out on this stuff, obviously.
Oh, I mean, it is your work. So
Yes, I ask
it's
why for a living.
fantastic.
I'm nosy for a living. That's what I tell people.
Now, remind me, why did you even start this to begin with?
Start what? This conversation or because you asked me.
No, doing what you do. You know what I meant.
Uh, it's interesting because when I was in college, I think early on, I decided I was going to be a double major in accounting and finance. And it took me one semester to realize, no, that was not what I enjoyed at all. And I think it wasn't until my junior year in college that I started taking management and marketing classes that had a lot of case study work, research, right? You had to read a research case study or some kind of case study and think about it and make sense and talk about how it applied to a problem. And I became fascinated with that kind of stuff. And the more classes I took in marketing, the more research I was exposed to, and I just became hooked. Um, I was just, I just found it extremely interesting because it was so different. And it wasn't just widgets, right? It was a different thing every time. So that's what got me interested initially. And then I got a master's degree in market research, and then I was off to the races in corporate life doing it for cars, boats, and booze, and then had enough of that and decided to do it on my own. So,
We may have to take a piece of this conversation offline for later.
mhm.
But we have how to continue the conversations from the shows in the Success Builders Launchpad
Oh,
community
cool.
on school.
Great.
One of the things that may be a great idea is to have you pop in with one of your favorite case studies every now and then.
Ooh, that'd be
To,
fun.
wouldn't it? I think so. Okay,
Yeah.
so I wrote that down so we can talk about that later.
Great.
Um, Yay. So, and I also need to write down because I've got another book in the works. Once I get this one done, stop. I've only started taking some notes because when I think about it, I just need to get it out of my head so I can go back to the first
I
one I'm
get
working
that.
on.
I get
Uh,
that.
but it's called The Age of Discernment. So I may need to tap into what you're doing because it goes hand in hand with the conversation that
Yeah.
we have all this information, but nobody knows what to do with it and how to distill it. And some things that I've even come to realize recently is that we were taught from the beginning to believe what we're told, what we're given, right?
It's
To
true.
just believe what we're given. And not one time are we taught to stop to question that.
I know.
And so now
That
here we are. This is why people like you need to inspire people like me over here to stop for a second. And is there really a problem here?
that's why I love research. That it forces me to question everything, not only from my client's perspective, but how I'm doing things as a business owner. And that discipline of continuing to ask questions, it can be a strength and it can be a major weakness because you can get trapped in just asking questions without taking any action. So, thank God for some good coaching along the way that has broken me out of, overthinking the hell out of stuff and not doing anything about it.
Right. Stop the spiral.
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, we all got it. There's balance literally in everything that we do. It's a harmony, that ebb and flow. Like research is
Mhm.
important, but an out of balance amount of it, you're stuck.
Well, it's interesting, and people think this is heresy from a research geek, but research is never the answer to anything. It is always a piece of the puzzle. Sometimes it's a bigger piece, sometimes it's a smaller piece, but it should never be you should never do research to get a yes, no, or yes, no answer to do something. Because if that's your only source of information, you're doing it wrong. There's other things that have to be taken into context. And that knee-jerk reaction and just the pace of things today make that very difficult for business and business owners to want to do because they got to move. And I get it, but there has to be some balance there.
So let's talk for a hot second about the difference between research and for like the KPI tracking.
Okay.
Because some people may be like, I know what I need to know. My KPIs tell me that, right?
Mhm.
But if we're not maybe tracking the right things, or we're missing a piece of information that could help increase our numbers where they need to be increased, like how do you, while I'm guessing KPIs fit within research, however, how does it help me out here?
Yeah, I think KPIs are, there's such a wide swath of those, right? I keep them. I keep weekly KPIs on my business and activity on various things that I do, but that's largely based on activity, right? Like, what posts have I made? What contacts have I made? What proposals have I written, which what have gotten accepted? What, revenue,
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. So I think all of that to me those are indicators of activity. They aren't indicators of knowledge. And the backbone of everything in my mind, my short explanation of what I do is better information equals better decisions equals better results. And it's in that order, right? You have to gather
Mhm.
some information to understand what's going on so that you can make an informed decision, so you can apply that information to actions that get you the results. It's a process. I think KPI is at the end of that, right? It shows what are the results of that equation. And I think research comes upstream a bit from that. You have to have the right information to be able to make the decisions to move those KPIs. But if you're not getting the information, you're just recording activity.
It's interesting you say that, and I see that same pattern, that same flow can be applied to the individual just as much as
Mhm.
it can be to a business.
Sure.
So if my past year has been a shitstorm, right? But having some self research
Yeah.
to figure out like what is the real problem, what are my beliefs, what are my values, attitudes, what are my bad patterns? Like I have to do the research. I have to shoot that lens back on myself to go deeper
Right. And
to then
yeah.
make those better decisions.
That's the struggle though, because in my business particularly, just because you do the research doesn't mean you're going to get the results. I can't take the action for you, Mr. Business Owner. I can give you that information. I can tell you the story of why it matters and my recommendations on what you should do with it to make better decisions. But based on that, you and your team are going to have to do some specific things to make it valuable, right? And that's where that ROI thing becomes so challenging because it's not just a one-to-one relationship that, oh, you have this information, you should get X results. It just
Right.
doesn't work that way because there's dependence in that relationship, right? I
Mhm.
provide you the information, the story, some direction, but I can't do it for you. And you're going to have to take some action. And it's interesting where we've gotten with personal responsibility these days, right? I mean,
Get it.
a lot of the conversations in this country, and this is not a political statement, it's just the conversations in this country point to a lack of personal responsibility, right? Nobody wants to be blamed for anything. Nobody wants to take responsibility for it. And if you translate it into business, then that becomes a huge problem because nobody's going to fix it for you. You kind of have to
Well,
do something different. If you want something to change, do something
you got
different.
you got to make the change. And
Right.
I say that as I'm getting ready to, like, I feel like I'm going to puke when I get ready to say this.
Oh,
I have let people down in this whole process, right? One of my best friends is like, I need some space because it's affected. Her daughter used to work for me. I still owe her daughter, and my finances haven't caught up to what my plan is, right?
Yeah,
Because there's aspects of the result that I can't control.
sure.
And so that money hasn't flown in like I have planned for it to. So I can't then do my other things, but the responsibility is still mine. Like it's my
Right.
fault. And not only that, in this whole thing, I didn't communicate either. Like somebody else did something like didn't communicate with me, and I got highly pissed about it. And I turned around and did the same thing to somebody else. And I was like,
Yeah.
fudge
Yeah.
monkeys. And I'm trying to be better at not cursing, but fuck it.
I
I
know.
was in the wrong, and I absolutely have taken responsibility for it. It just sucks. It hurts.
It
It's
does.
not good.
It does. It takes a lot of character to be able to do that, and I've had to do that plenty of times personally and professionally, and it doesn't feel good, but in hindsight, that's the way we grow, right? You take ownership, you take responsibility, you fix it, and don't make the same mistakes, and you grow from it. And I think that's the case personally and professionally. I think businesses need to actually do more of that these days than less, because consumers value transparency. They just do. They're tired of the one message fits all kind of thing and the corporate speak and the political speak. And I mean, that has been drowned out. That's swipe, get, skip, 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 skip. It's like they're not watching that stuff anymore. But if you come out with a very transparent kind of, hey, we screwed up and here's how we're fixing it, I think that holds a lot more weight with consumers, than just the usual. So,
And then fix it. Like
and then,
do
yeah.
what's necessary to do that.
Yeah, they're paying
Um,
attention. They're paying attention.
yeah. So what and we're gonna only touch on this one time.
Okay.
AI.
Ah,
See? And here because the only
serenity
reason I'm
now, serenity now.
the biggest reason I'm bringing it up is because that has affected our
Mhm.
industries
Yes.
quite a lot.
Mhm.
And what well, I want to know from you, what do you see happening with this? Both good and bad.
Yeah, oh, there's a lot there. There's a lot there. Um, my industry in particular has gotten a lot younger, and there's not as many what I'll call professionally trained researchers like myself. And that's not an arrogant statement, it's just fact. I have a master's in research. My whole career has been in market and consumer intelligence, right? Um, I understand the ins and outs. A lot of people that are in it now are younger and don't have that same experience. And with all the technology that's available, um, it's being presented as solutions instead of tools. And I think that's dangerous. Um, I'm currently looking at ways to leverage the right tools to make me more efficient so that I can use my brain to think and do what clients are actually paying me for better without doing the logistical administrative kind of grunt stuff that doesn't really add value. AI could help with that if I find the right tools. So that's a positive. If it's used as a tool, I think it can make humans more efficient in doing what they do best, which is think. AI cannot think for you. I did an experiment earlier this year where I had a big survey and I think there was 2,500 open-ended comments in this survey. So I went to AI and I gave it a very specific prompt and told him exactly what data was in there. And I said, I want you to create the initial themes of what these comments are telling us. I gave them respondent numbers and comments and all of that stuff. And what I got, initially looked pretty good. Then I looked and it was duplicating itself. It was giving me the same themes across all categories that I asked it to give me feedback on. And more worrisome, it was creating respondents. to fill in the holes. So it presented me with respondent numbers that were not in my data set with
Not even
comments.
real. Oh,
So it hallucinated respondents to make the case seem more strong, right?
more
Make
supportive.
more right. So stupid is as stupid does. That's kind of how I look at AI. It's like garbage in, garbage out at this point. I don't think it's at a point yet where it can, truly be Terminator level, Skynet kind of think on its
Right.
own kind of thing. Right now, it still needs a human to look at it and say, does this make sense? Too many people are not doing that. And I think that is a big problem in terms of not only marketing communications, but I've heard lawyers get into trouble. I've heard even on the artistic side of things, when people have AI create a logo for their business, they don't understand that they don't own that logo. They cannot copyright it. They cannot trademark it. The AI company doesn't own it. They can't trademark it. But guess what? Anybody that finds it on the internet can use it. So if you're in a branding position and you have an AI created logo, no
Not
bueno.
good.
No bueno. So
No bueno.
I think there's, with the trends we talked about earlier of people wanting more human connection, I think that's a positive turn. I think for me, what I hope to see in 26 with AI, I think it can be a truly useful tool to help us do what we do best, which is think and interpret. I hope that there is kind of a resurgence of putting it in its proper place as a tool as opposed to a solution as we go forward in 26. That would be my grand hope.
So, as we wrap up this episode, what kind of wisdom or advice would you impart to our listeners that you've experienced? You're like, here, try to do or don't do some.
Well, let's see. There's a lot there. Never stop asking why is the best piece of advice I can give any business owner. When business is going great, ask why. When it's mediocre, ask why. When it's bad, definitely ask why. But you have to constantly be reassessing what you're doing, what's happening in the environment, what's going on with your consumers, and particularly what's going on with your consumers and how the overall environment is affecting them and their decisions, and what part you play in their lives. Is it a big part or a small part, right? Because
Right.
that's going to have an effect. So if businesses really take the time to just gather, it doesn't have to be super expensive to do this. Just gather information a little bit on a continuous basis. Just stay in contact with your market, your competitors, your consumers as to what's going on. It will prepare, you will be ahead of 95% of your competitors if you do that, because you'll be aware of things that are happening with your consumers in the marketplace long before they do, and they have to panic. That is not the way that business runs right now. It is dynamic, it moves very fast, and it moves fast to its detriment, I think,
Yeah.
a lot of times. So if I think I wrote this in a LinkedIn post this week, that if your last consumer research is older than your last cell phone upgrade, we need to talk.
That's good.
You just really need to be aware of what consumers are changing. The mindset of people is changing more frequently than ever before, just because there's so much input, there's so much to consume. It changes the way people think, and it does it dramatically faster than it ever has before. And if you're not staying in touch with that, you're working off old information. So, particularly to those that might be watching this from that are in a marketing role or a leadership role for that matter, if you're not staying in pretty constant communication with your consumers, you really don't know who they are and what they're thinking, because they're changing. They're continuing to evolve constantly. They might have bought you this month, but next month it's a crapshoot, right?
Yeah.
And that depends on category, of course, but that would be the biggest piece of advice that I can offer is stay in touch with what's going on. Just keep asking why and gather a little bit of information all the time. It doesn't have to be onerous. It really doesn't. Be inquisitive.
And then one last question for you.
Mhm.
So today, Chris, what does success look like for you?
For me,
For
ooh.
you.
I've had to do a lot of work on that very question, actually, over the last couple of years. And, as a business owner, I always thought it was, well, this amount of revenue or this many clients or whatever. I have discovered that the reason I started this business, the jazz for me,
Right.
is watching the light bulb go on a business owner when they get a little bit of information and understand how to apply it to really make a difference to what they're trying to do. And success looks like me having clients that have that light bulb on and are hungry for more, right? I am helping them grow their business. When I can help a business owner or an enterprise figure out how to use information to their benefit and to the benefit of their ultimate customer, that's it, man. That's the jazz. That's what success looks like, because success begets success, right?
Yeah.
If I can help other businesses be more successful, I'll be more successful. I can't flip that equation and say, well, I need to be more successful by. No, I need to help other people be successful and it will come to me. So that's what it looks like. And obviously, being able to retire someday would be great.
Little side note. And I love that you do the jazz because, I'm an AC fan myself.
You got to have something that gets you out of bed every day. And if you're just doing the same thing and it's drudgery, that sucks.
That's not
But
what anybody got in business for.
I get to do different stuff every day and talk to all sorts of different kinds of businesses and different industries. And if I can just help the majority of them turn that light bulb on and see how it can make a difference, man, that's cool.
Very cool. Well, thank you, Chris, for spending time with me today and having a great conversation.
Thank you.
Appreciate you very
Hey,
much.
it's been great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, have a good one.
You too.
See, I'm always, like I said, I'm always super excited about these episodes. I appreciate my friend Chris very much. He's been very supportive of me and my business over the years. We've collaborated on some things. We're in groups together. So he and I know we can banter very well, and appreciate his candor on many things in life in general and business. So I appreciate this episode. I highly encourage you to get more curious, to do all the things that Chris talked about doing. And also, let's not be afraid of AI. Like we know the AI has affected so much, and it will, but this is where we should lean into learning more about our industry, about our people that we're trying to serve the best, and who the people that would best serve our business in such a way that they're, like we want our best buyer persona. So that is who we serve the best. I don't want to sound exclusive, but that's it. Like, find your tribe, and in that tribe of audience building, you're going to have your best buyer, and that's the person. Like right there, that's the person. You're the person that would be the best buyer for a business, and that helps the business thrive. But also, the business should be serving the tribe, and the best buyer pops up. Okay. Anyway, that could be a whole nother episode in and of itself. I love the whole concept and not just concept, but the practice of being curious, because curiosity does not kill a cat. Curiosity creates opportunities that we would never have seen before. And I'm just so excited about what's yet to come. More to come also. A Christy episode is coming up soon. And with that, Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to this season of Small Business Success Talk.